let's get started now. So, as I mentioned, I'm the head of business solutions at Qualification Check, and this is the webinar of, I guess, how we help support our partners, and then how we also improve the student enrollment process and the applicant experience throughout admissions as well, focusing specifically on how we support institutions with the verification of degrees that international students may hold. So just as a starting point for those that are not aware of who we are, in short, we are our primary focus is on verifying academic qualifications across the globe. So that's covering 50,000 plus, I think it's 53,000 institutions across the globe, and more than 195 countries as well. Within each of them, the main aim, or the aim, is to go back to what we call the primary source, or the awarding body, in order to verify the information directly with them, and then help you and help the applicants throughout the admissions process. What I'll be showing you today is going to be these two combined. It's been called the applicant model, whereby the applicant, or the individual going through the process, will be the one that's submitting the information, and then you as the institution at the end will receive the verification result, and then be able to see whether it comes back as verified or not verified, and supporting the admissions process. So the first part, global verifications, is the actual verification flow, and I'm verified. The wallet on the right hand side is the additional benefit that we provide to applicants. So it's what they can do with the verified credentials after or post education, and how they can continue to build that. In terms of the reasons why this was built, I guess about 6 or 7 years ago, was looking at it from both sides. So how could we support institutions, and then how could we support the applicants? We know, obviously, during that period post-COVID, or even just before that as well, there'd been increasing numbers of international students, certainly coming to the UK, but then also across the globe in general. And one of the features, or one of the main components, is looking at how we could save time for admissions staff that were handling potentially thousands of applications over different intakes across the year. So we could save the time by encouraging the applicant who holds the information based on their own qualifications, encouraging them to go through the process and submit the verifications, so you could just receive the results at the end. We also wanted to make sure that, as part of that process, we know it's difficult understanding the different complexities across different companies, so different institutions, so different universities within each country might have very different processes. So in order to make sure that there is a robust process in place, we wanted to be able to provide that information, and so you understand where you need to go for the verification in order to do that, which department, which people, and then making sure that that helps with speed up the admissions process as a whole as well. So be it maybe a student records department or student services, or maybe an academic registrar, or being the right people to verify within that institution. The end goal on our side as well is always making sure that it's the most well prepared and well qualified applicants that are going through the process. I think sometimes we do get a bit lost in making sure that we're deterring fraudulent applications, but the focus should always be on making sure it's those right students that are getting the places that they deserve as well. Hence why there's been a lot of focus on the applicant experience, making sure it's clear for them to understand as they go through the process, and that if there's any questions that they do have, that they have enough points of contact and enough information there for them to figure it out with our support as well. And then here are also just a snapshot of some of the partners that we do have that are working on these models as well, or on specifically the applicant model, just to support the admissions process, as I said before. So what we're actually going to do now is the demo, as I mentioned before. So let me just seamlessly flick onto the demo now. And the first thing to point out, if I make that one a little bit larger as well, so obviously you can see there's a logo in the right hand side. The way this was built is obviously with the applicant in mind, and making sure that everything is clear for them. So when they're moving between the application process that they're going through per institution. We want to make sure that this flow is still perceived as part of the institutional flow as well, hence why we put the logos at various different parts of the applicant submission model. Hence why you can see Imperial College London here. But it all stems from the unique URL that we make available either at offer stage, or it's going to be closer to visa stage as well. It's one of those two places where verifications tend to take place. So when the applicant receives the link or clicks on the link, they'll be redirected to here, the co-branded portal, and then they'll need to create an account. So that's the first part of the process. So once they've done that, so email address, first name, last name, then they'll be able to register, and 30 seconds later, they should then receive an email that just tells them they need to complete their password. So all in all, and if I bring you over to this page here, you should be able to see that there's the logo that pops up, and it's just a very simple message asking them to complete their registration. So, as I said, all in all, this should only take about 30 seconds for the applicant to do. Really simple, creating the password, choosing the country, and then agreeing to the T's and C's. So what we've done here, as I mentioned, 6-7 years ago, this is when it was created. We wanted to make sure that each step was outlined, that we could also support universities as we were putting this together. So one of the ways in which we did this was highlighting the journey along the top. So application details, verification details, payment details if they're relevant, and then viewing the results. So that's clear for the applicant. Then for the institution, in terms of what information and you want to see and how you can filter by the applicants, we created what we call the application details. So we know applicants that come from various different demographics may fill in the information slightly differently. We know certain applicants may only apply with just their first name, which means it might be more difficult to then be able to track them and filter by them when you're searching in your view. Date of birth as well. Other different demographics might do day and month or month and day, so it's difficult as a unique identifier. So what we did create when we put this together with Imperial was taking a look at what unique identifiers we could have that would work across the board. And we came to a conclusion that the ID number or the application number, if it's an undergraduate, perhaps it's the UCAS number in the UK, but whatever number or application ID number is specific to the applicant was the best use, because then it helps you as an institution be able to filter by them and find them a lot easier. We also wanted to collect a bit more information as to what these applicants were applying for, perhaps which programs or faculties. Now, Imperial is the only one that uses us for, well, ask the applicants to fill in the faculties. We know most applicants tend not to know what faculties they're applying for. So instead, a drop-down list of the programs is probably going to be more efficient and give you the information and support the applicants in the right way. So you can have as many programs as you have listed, whether it be for PG courses or UG courses, and then it's a keyword search for the applicants so they can find it within the list of maybe 200 programs within a couple seconds. But all of this can be configured to match whatever requirements you have. We know some of our other partners perhaps ask for which agent is submitting the information on behalf of the applicant. Others might ask for very different bits of information that's going to help them filter. This is your view, and this is what's going to help you navigate the platform best. So the next step, as you can see along the top, is the verification details. So this is where the applicant will then search for the name of the institution at which they'd studied. So they've got two options. They can either search by the country, and we know sometimes that's a little bit easier, simply because some institutions across different countries will have very similar names. So if they want to, they can. If not, if they're confident in the name of the institution and how it's spelt, then they can type it in. It's a keyword search, and this is a demo site, so it doesn't have everything in there. But if I type in the letter F, every institute that contains the letter F will be found in there. Same thing if I do H, and again with HI, any combination of those letters, that's what would appear in the platform for them. Now, let's say for instance, the institution doesn't appear. We also have to help the applicants on that side. So we've designed a prompt that comes up just to let them know they should be using the keyword search function. 9 times out of 10, it does tend to be that the name is misspelt when initially looking for it. So we encourage that they use different parts of the institution's name. If they still can't find it, then that's when they can reach out to us using that new institute email address that you can see. And then beyond that, that's where our team, our research team, that's based out in New Delhi in India, and then also we have a team based in Abuja in Nigeria. They can look into the legitimacy of an institution, making sure that it is real and bona fide, make sure that we understand the process for verification at that institution as well, and any other relevant information that relates to how we can complete the verification is what we would then pull together and make sure that we could then make it available to the applicant to then submit the verification via the portal. So let's choose F and let's choose this institute. What we can see is then there's a drop-down list of the different requirements per institution. And one of the key words to use when you look at this portal is dynamic. And that will make sense in a couple minutes as well. So the first thing that comes up from the applicant's view is the required documents. So we can see there's everything from translated transcript, degree certificate, and the consent form. Now, the majority, 90% of our 90% plus of our partners would include the transcript and the degree transcript, as well as the consent form for obvious reasons, as part of the flow, because we know it's on the basis of the information that's held within the transcript and within the degree certificate that the applicant is being admitted into the university. So we know that they are core pieces of documentation. The translated transcript is more of an additional piece if that's something that you think would be useful, again, depending on where the applicants have studied, if you think that will help with collating all the documents based on that. Again, your choice. So in terms of the information that needs to be submitted, we've got the individual's details, first name, last name, and then date of birth. So very simple information. And then below you've got the qualification details. So this is where the dynamic nature of the platform then comes into play. So we know for each institution, the course, the qualification, the classification, enrollment year, and graduation year are all going to be mandatory as part of the admissions process. That's the information that you need to help with admissions and help making your decisions as to which applicants need to go through or which applicants you want to make the offers to. I know graduation year isn't on here, but this is just the demo site. But that is something that you would see on the live side. But what you can also see is the student ID number along the top. So the reason I mentioned that we have a dynamic platform is simply because certain institutions around the world have very specific requirements when it comes to verifying the individuals. So in India, we know a high number of institutions require the student ID number. In Western Africa, if you're looking at WIAC examinations, then you would need the matriculation number. For any Chinese qualifications, you're likely to need a serial number. Different countries will have different requirements in terms of the qualification details, and all of this helps speed up the process, and it's more streamlined for the applicant as well. So rather than them having to come backwards and forwards and adding more information, we know what's needed on the institutional side, so the applicant can also provide it, and it's stuff that they would have to hand anyway, so it makes it easy for them. And then below we can see the documents that we had mentioned were required from the beginning. So we can see the consent forms. If I just download that, you can see what it looks like here. It's just a standard permission to release information that the applicant can either hand sign or electronically sign it, whichever is easiest for them. Obviously, if they have their own consent form, if you have your own consent form to an institutional level, that's something that can be uploaded in here as well. But if there's any very specific consent form requirements that may be needed per institution, then that's something that would also pop up on the platform. So you would know, or the applicant would know, what exactly is needed on a individual or granular basis, let's say. So once all of these documents have then been uploaded as part of the process, they will all be sent off to the primary source to then be verified, barring the translated transcript, because that is just part of the document collection piece on the portal. but the consent form, the degree certificate, and the transcript go down the verification flow. So accept the T's and C's and then submit that off. So the next piece here is where you can see the verification now sits in a pending status. So we have 3 statuses internally just to make it clear for the applicants and for yourselves. So pending is when the information has gone to what we call the primary source, as I said earlier. And then you've got 2 completed statuses of verified and not verified. And they both do exactly what it says on the tin. Verified being all the information is correct that has been entered by the applicant, and then verified by the primary source, and not verified if there's any discrepancy in the data or if it's come back as fraudulent, then you will get a red report or a color-coded red report that says not verified, plus the evidence provided by the primary source to explain why it's come back as not verified. So we wouldn't just accept a black and white yes or no, it's not verified. We want to understand, and we know from auditing purposes as well, that we need to include, is it because they never studied at the institution? Is it perhaps they weren't awarded the qualification or the degree because they hadn't paid their tuition fees? Maybe it's the grade that had been embellished, and that's something that we'd seen far more of. I guess in terms of percentages of reasons for fraud, it would be embellishment of grades. But whatever the reason is, that is something that would be populated on the report to then help support any decision making internally at the institution. So one of the final bits from the applicant's perspective, and touching on what I mentioned right at the beginning around the experience, is they have visibility of this event history, which tells them any statuses or any changes in status to their verification, any relevant information that they should be aware of relating to their case, and it will be visible to them here. So they can simply log in and then check what's happening at any point. So this is updated frequently. It also does include an ETA or an ETA based on the data that we have on the platform. So if we've done a verification of that institution before, and when we are reaching out to the institutions and aiming to get the responses back as quickly as possible, that will be posted in here for the applicants so they're aware of where they are in the process. As an average across the board, we see an average turnaround time of about 5 working days. Obviously that differs depending on the countries and the institutions and the processes they have in place. Factors such as the age of the record, so more recent graduates will be verified a lot quicker. Those that have perhaps slightly older qualifications, those might take a little bit more time to then verify. Holiday periods throughout the year, obviously depending on different countries as well, might also impact the response times, but as a whole, you're looking at about an average of 5 working days across the board, across the 50,000 institutions that we have available on the portal. In terms of how applicants can reach out to us, there's 3 ways. So you can see in the bottom right hand corner, there's a chat function that applicants can use to reach out to us. That is pre-filled with common questions that we have seen in the past that will support applicants. Beyond that, if that doesn't help them with any specific query that they do have, then it will put them in touch with one of our agents that can then answer any queries. We also have the FAQs on the left hand side, which is full of those common questions as well if they just prefer to read through them. Again, it's built up over time of what we've seen applicants ask, just so we can best support them throughout the whole process. And then the last point of contact that they can use is something called applicant support. It's a designated email address for applicants that are going through the process, where they can contact us, and it feeds back through to our customer success and operations and customer service team, so they can answer any queries relating to the cases that come through, or any support that the applicants may need throughout the process. That's why that's there. So top of mind for us is always making sure that we support the applicant as best as possible. This is something that we know that they're always keen to then go and continue their studies, so it is on us in this point, in this portal, to support them in the right way. And here we can see one of the first questions that's on the FAQs. Applicants will ask us why the verifications aren't done immediately, essentially, and we always want to make sure that they get that peace of mind, and the expectations are set that whilst we do want them to happen as quickly as possible, that isn't always the case, but we're here to answer any questions that they do have. As for the final part on the applicant's journey, this is where they have access to the I'm Verified wallet that I mentioned at the beginning. So this is essentially a digital representation of their verified credentials. You can see the verification I just submitted is sitting in there and pending. Once it's completed, it will then change to verified, assuming that it's all correct. You can see as well that the individual can then add the high school employment verification licenses, as well as ID, English language proficiency, and academic references as well. So these are pieces that they can add to support the admissions function as well, or support their application. But then beyond that, in terms of employment history and professional licenses, it's additional credentials they can add once they move into the working world as well. So it's meant to support them along their career. And then they have the sharing center below as well. So you can see this has been automatically shared with the institution, hence why the unique URL is important, because it's done per institution. But below that, there's the private and public sharing functionality available to the applicants as well. So if they wish to share a snapshot of their wallet to a potential employer, they can type in the email address and that will be sent to them, where they would need to log in and have a view of that. If they just wanted to generate a public link and then make it available on a CV or LinkedIn perhaps, that's what can be done here. And again, just a snapshot of their wallet or whatever they decided they wanted to show using that link. So all of this is just bearing in mind that obviously applicants are keen to then continue their studies, but we want to make sure that we support them post that as well across their career too. So that's the applicant side. So the second piece is where you as an institution are able to then see the data that's gathered on the applicant. So essentially the reports confirming that they are verified or not verified. So into the dashboard we go, and you can see again why I mentioned that the unique URL is important. Within the dashboard, you can see the total number of applicants that have submitted a case using that link. And then we can also see the number of pending cases that are sitting in here as well. So as I mentioned before, it's with the primary source to then be verified. What's also useful to know is the flow itself, or the methods of verification. So there are three methods that we use across the 50,000. One is integration with the data sources, or integration with the institution itself into their student record system, which means we can get faster responses or immediate responses from there. Behind that, we've got a secure and automated email link that goes out to the authorized and relevant individuals within the institutions that can verify the information, such as student records, student services. Whoever is authorized within the institution would receive that link and can then verify the information against their records. And then finally, you have the manual intervention from our teams based in India and Nigeria, and then other tactical locations as well that help with linguistic and time zone barriers that may exist. And they help with obviously emails, phone calls, demand drafts. If we need to physically visit an institution, then they're also on hand to then support that as well. And then you've got the two folders on the right hand side, completed and archived, which essentially serve the same function. So if I click into the archive folder, and then let's choose one of Rachel's, you can see the application details that had been submitted by the applicant before, so they're all visible here. And in the email notification that you would receive when the case has been resolved, you would see these as well. And then if you scroll below or scroll down, you can see the final verified reports. Obviously, these are generated internally, so these are only demo versions, and I'm not an academic registrar either, but you would see the grade, the enrollment year, the graduation year, all the supporting information, which would then help confirm the information that the applicant has used as part of the application process. So you can either choose to download just the report itself, or all of the adjoining documentation as one whole package, which you can see the download option for here. Now in the completed folder, and the reason we split between completed and archived is so that there's a distinction or management function distinction between when a verification has come into the portal, initially been resolved, but a team member hasn't had the chance to take the next appropriate action or download the report so it sits in the completed folder. Once you have had the chance to do that and there's no other action relating to the verification of their qualifications, it can be moved into the archive folder and it stays there as well. Typically, for GDPR reasons, we keep hold of the information for 12 months. Obviously, if you need it for slightly longer, then we can keep it for slightly longer as well. So let's move on to the dashboard, which is the final pieces here as well. Obviously, it's relating back to the application details that we used right at the beginning, so we can see why we're using them and why we've asked for them. So we can see the drop down list of the faculties or schools. You can, if you're asking for the programs applied for as well, we can do the same thing, and then also using the reference numbers too, or the application ID numbers. So if I just removed everything from pending and completed, I could also choose those that are just archived and filter from there, or perhaps I can then just choose from anything that is only business related, perhaps, or that from that faculty, and that will help the teams navigate which individuals they want to be looking for. But again, the reference number is always the best unique identifier for that. So that's the flow from start to end, from the applicant's journey to what you can see at the end of the process as well, and then how we're looking to support. Hopefully that makes sense in terms of why it supports the applicants and why it's useful for them, as well as how it can give you visibility on the data that you're seeing, but also how, from confirming the authenticity of the applicants, the processes of verification, why that helps with the robustness of going back to the primary source and helping internally with the procedures on that side too. I appreciate